Good. Welcome. Welcome to everybody who's tuning in online. We're just getting started here. There's people coming in and yeah. Hey, David. Peter. Good morning. Yeah, yeah. Up close to this side is preferred.
Okay.
Yeah.
On that side?
Up to close to this side is preferred.
Like on this side?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
I've got just a few source sheets there available, and if you guys can hear me online, make sure to put something in the chat so I know if the audio is okay. And there is a source sheet available on the description in the video as well. There's 2 pages to the source sheet. There are 2 yeah. Yeah. And I only have a few of them, so you have to share, or you can access it, on a device as well. I'm going to try and zoom the screen so I can see it from way back here. Okay, audio's great. That's good news. Zoom. I'm going to see if I can zoom. Or how big I can zoom to be able to see things. Okay. I don't want to delay too much because for people, it's a busy day. People are gonna be and some of us may be fasting. If you're a firstborn, you want to get this opportunity to break your fast. Pesach prep, yeah. Okay. Oh, you have the source. Did you?
Yeah,
well, there's a few different.
Is this
I will send you the maybe I will put the document into. Think about what I'm doing here. I'll put it in the guys chat, and that way everyone who wants to can get access to that.
Morning.
We've got breakfast coming up with nice bagels from Razava, the new kosher bakery in St. Paul. I'm excited about that. And then for anybody who's online, make sure you try the virtual bagel that is in the description. You guys saw that?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. And make sure to delete it before Pesach, though,
Yep.
and clear all the cookies in your browser. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So.
All right. Well, I'm here.
Okay.
When you're ready for that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Well, I think I'm going to get going because even though we've gotten more people we know are coming, because I just don't want to delay too much, and we've got a lot to do before we even get into the study itself. So just pull up one more thing here on my phone. Yeah, there's plenty to do here. Okay. Bizrat Hashem, B'Shem Kol Yisrael. I want to say thank you to the sponsors today, Mitch and Mary, and thank you to the community as a whole for the support and encouragement of this. And this is dedicated Ilui Nishmat, Melvin, son of Alfred, who taught godly life by example in word and also in deed. Also dedicated to Yisrael Nachum Ben Penny. May he be a Melitz Yosher for us. And also I want to dedicate it also to the memory of Chaim Yedidia Wolf Ben Aaron Polak, who was a pioneer in Messianic Judaism, and he would be thrilled to be here with us, if you weren't living in a different century. And of course, this is all Lechavod Adonenu Morenu Rabbeinu Yeshua HaMashiach Zechuso Yagen Aleinu. We're in the process of de-extinction. De-extinction is a topic in the news right now. Yeah.
Pretty wild.
And we are doing. Hey Eli, we're doing that right now. We're de-extincting this world from Yeshua faith began in a context where it was naturally included within Judaism. Thousands of years ago, that was what Yeshua faith was. It was within Judaism. And so what we're doing is we're working on genetically modifying ourselves, our faith, to bring back this authentically Jewish Yeshua faith back to life. De-extincting. Come on in. Welcome. So anyway, like I said, I intend to be quick. Find a seat. Yeah, make yourself comfortable. I intend to be quick because this is a very busy day for everybody. We've got a lot to do, and in case anybody's fasting, we want to be able to get. Yeah, go ahead and sit. We want to make sure that everybody's got the opportunity to get into things. So what are we doing? This is a Siyum. Siyum means finishing. It's a celebratory meal at the end of a course of study. And it's great for everybody who's participating because according to Jewish thought, whoever finishes a mitzvah is credited with the whole thing. So you all get to participate in this course of study with me, and you get this credit.
Cool.
Yeah. And breakfast at the same time. It's like a win-win. Yeah. The purpose of this event is not to congratulate or honor or aggrandize me, but it's for me to internalize what I've been studying, and by eating something at this moment, it's sort of like you're kind of like on Mount Sinai, how they ate and they drank when they beheld HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we're reminded that it reminds us that Torah study is something that we don't just do for ourselves. It's something that benefits and involves the entire community. So I want to encourage everyone who's watching, everyone who's here, to think about something that's like an aggressive goal in study that you have. What do you have? Everybody should have something that they are something that they're working on right now that is an aggressive goal that's going to push you, that's going to challenge you, and then you're going to feel a sense of accomplishment at the end of it. Have something. It could be anything. It could be reading a book of the Bible. It could be reading a section of the Bible. It could be reading some commentary or whatever it is. Have that goal, and then work on it and get to it. Eli's asking what is the actual passage of the Talmud that we're going to be covering this morning. So you'll find the link to the source sheet in the video description, and you can find it all right there. We're going to be concluding the Masechet Sanhedrin, and so I'm going to jump around a little bit in the tractate, and we get to see a few different pieces from that. Okay, so today is the fast of the firstborn. I just want to address that. What is going on? It's called Tanis Bechoros, and it is kind of a fascinating fascinating idea, because we're fasting because in honor of, or to celebrate, or we thank God for the fact that God spared the firstborns, the Jewish firstborns, when he killed the firstborn Egyptians. It's kind of strange to fast out of gratefulness. It's most of the time we fast out of mourning, or out of repentance, or out of concern. But why are we fasting on a day where we're just ultimately thankful? Yoshi, I'm concerned that maybe you're in a position that's going to. Am I visible on the screen? Oh, yeah. Okay. If it's on the table, it's going to get bumped every time that somebody hits the table, and I don't want to put people through the jiggly screen. So if they got it on the big screen, but that's okay. All right. So that's a question. I'm not going to provide you with an answer. You can, if you think of one, you can tell me. It's normally observed on the 14th day of Pesach. It should be observed on the 15th day of Pesach, of Nisan, 15th day of Nisan. But that's Passover, because that's the day when the actual salvation took place. Well, we can't fast on the holiday, so we fast on the previous day. But then this year, the 14th of Nisan falls on Shabbos. We can't fast on Shabbos, and we don't want to fast on Friday either. So we move it all the way back to Thursday.
What's another thing that actually happened on the 15th of Nisan, but we generally commemorate on the 14th of Nisan? Yeshua's death.
Oh, okay, sure.
Kind of connected.
So
To the first one.
yeah, I know. Okay, so you're pointing out that on the I have to repeat it a little bit because you're probably not going to be on the audio here. So Yoshi points out that we commemorate the death of Yeshua on the 14th, even though it took place on the 15th.
Right. According to the synoptics, it took place on the 15th,
Mhm.
but we commonly, or symbolically, think about it as having Passover.
Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. So the Passover lamb is sacrificed on the 14th. We connect that with we talk about his death in terms of the Passover lamb, and yet according to the Synoptic Gospels, he's dying on the 15th of Nisan. So that's an interesting connection right there. Okay, so this year we can't fast on Shabbos. We don't want to fast on Friday, so we fast on Thursday.
Sorry to interrupt, but you want to be able to have people seat there. I think we just move it to the end of the table.
Okay, because if it's on the table, we could slide it up close to the table but not on the table.
I'm saying at the end of the table, on the platform it's on. But
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's fine. We could do that.
Because otherwise nobody's.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Just go ahead and move the whole rig.
So question while they're doing that. The fast of the firstborn, is that appropriate? Also, and just in commemoration of the saving of the firstborn.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so that looks good. Yep,
That's fine.
that's fine. Yep. Yeah, tilt it down a little bit. Yeah. Okay. So Ryan's asking if it's appropriate for a Gentile to fast on the fast of the firstborn, just in commemoration of the salvation itself. And that's an excellent question. The number one, there are pious people who fast on this day, whether or not they're a firstborn. And another good question is, or another good point is, I can't remember the source, but Daniel has found or pointed out a source that suggests that ancient followers of Yeshua fasted on the fast of the firstborn, all of them. And which is particularly interesting, because this fast itself is not considered like it's not actually explicitly stated in the halakhic source material. You'll find it in like the Shulchan Aruch, but you won't find it back in like the Gemara itself. So it's on a level that you might say is just a minhag, and it may not be. It seems like it has ancient roots, but it doesn't. It seems like it's something that has developed over time. So if in ancient times followers of Yeshua were doing it, that's
It's kind of like
really my
Purim,
point.
though. It seems like it has more significance to its
Yeah.
believers.
Oh yeah.
Than maybe it does without that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it definitely takes on. So I do recommend it. I think it's a good thing. And then so what we're doing right now is we're exempting ourselves from the fast. So it is a common thing to do in a lot of in most communities. The normal recommendation is you shouldn't go into the Seder fasting. So we can exempt ourselves from the fast by participating in a Sudas mitzvah, a meal that is required due to the circumstances of the mitzvah that's taking place. So, for example, if you're attending a circumcision or something like that, you'd also do a meal, and then you'd be exempted from the fast. And once you're exempted from the fast, once you eat, then you're exempted for the whole day. We don't have anyone to circumcise here today, I don't think, but 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 we have this. It worked out real well. That working through the Daf Yomi and the timing worked out very well to conclude the fast, or to conclude the tractate to today. So that works out well. So what is the Talmud? First of all, what are we actually studying? Talmud is it's a record of discussions about the meaning and the practical application and the biblical basis for laws that are recorded in the Mishnah. And so the Mishnah is oral law, and it's preserved in this very terse code-like Hebrew. It's optimized for memorization, and so you need the Talmud, the Gemara, that expands on the Mishnah and draws all the connections and fleshes it out and explains the meaning of it. Now the Talmud is mostly in Aramaic, and whereas the Mishnah is in Hebrew, and then it's full of all kinds of things like logical debates, interpretations, and stories and tangents of all kinds. So it's a lot of interesting stuff to study. And so, what is Daf Yomi? I've been studying the Daf Yomi for quite a while now, and this is a program that began. A daf is a physical sheet, like a page, but we're talking about both sides of the page. So, like this, well, you have a two-sided page right here. That's one daf. So a daf, and Yomi means daily. So it's a program of study that goes through the Talmud one page, two-sided page at a time every day. And so this is a schedule of daily study. Tens of thousands of Jews around the world are doing that. They're on the same schedule. The concept was first proposed in 1920. So it's not something that goes back to ancient times. It's fairly just only over 100 years old. First Daf Yomi cycle began in 1923. And so to put it in perspective, the whole Talmud has 2,711 pages, which means that if you want to get through it on one daf per day, it's going to take you 7.5 years. So if you see someone online claiming that the Talmud is horrible and that they've read it, the chances are pretty good that they did not read the Talmud. They read some screenshotted meme about the Talmud with a bunch of made up quotes. And so that's a very common thing. Welcome. And so what? And even so, one daf per day is a rapid clip. It is very fast. This is dense material. You can't just skim over it. Like it's not like reading a novel or something like that. You have to work through it and struggle through it to really get the ideas that are in it. And so it's not studying Be'iyun. It's like Be'iyun, like with a lot of intent. And I don't have time, honestly, to grasp every single issue that's in there as I'm reading. I have to go through it very quickly. Sometimes the page size varies. Sometimes it only takes, a few minutes, but there are sometimes it takes over an hour or more for me to get through in my study. So it's a big commitment. All right, what are we studying now exactly? Tractate Sanhedrin. So you have to understand the Mishnah is divided up into 6 categories, 6 topics, main big topics, and then there are subtopics within those 6 categories that are called Masechtas or tractates. I don't know where the word tractate comes from, if anybody even knows that word in English, but that in Hebrew it's Masechta, and so each volume, each Masechta is on a specific topic, and but with lots of tangents that it'll go around and brush on other topics. And Sanhedrin is in the order, the Seder of Nezikin. Nezikin is the area that's about civil and criminal law damages. It literally means damages. Things you go to court for, property law, theft, things like that. And Sanhedrin actually means court, and it focuses really on the makeup and the proceedings of Jewish courts. Sanhedrin is a moderately large Masechta. It's got 113 dafim, well, actually 112 because the first one is numbered 2. So I started this 112 days ago in the mid-December. And next up, that starts today, is Tractate Makos, and I got this really nice new volume that just came out, where the pages are minukad, they're vowelized in the main text here. So that's gonna hopefully keep me more on this side, so I don't have to dip into the English side as often. And I'm really excited about that possibility. Okay, and this one is a lot shorter. This is Sanhedrin, these 3 volumes, that's it. This is Makos. So the good news is 23 days from now, we're probably going to be doing this again. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, let me give you a brief overview of what's in Sanhedrin, kind of a chapter by chapter overview. Chapter 1 talks about different sizes of courts and the different types of cases that they preside over. Chapter 2 talks about rulings that involve the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, or the king. Chapter 3 talks about proceedings for disputes regarding loans and other civil monetary cases. Chapter 4 talks about proceedings for capital cases. Chapter 5 talks more about capital cases, and it talks about the declaration of the new month. Chapter 6 talks about the death penalty by stoning. And then chapter 7 talks about other 3 death penalties that would be burning, beheading, and strangulation, and when they apply. Chapter 8 talks about the rebellious son. I don't remember how it's translated, but it's the Ben Sorero More, the glutton, and the Torah talks about this. If the parents are complaining about the son who is like a gluttonous and is violent and everything like that, they take him to court and so on, and the elders deal with it.
Where's the declaration?
Because it has to do with courts and the responsibility of courts. So he's asking, why is the declaration of the new month talked about in Sanhedrin, in the context of all these things about like criminal cases and everything like that? And the answer is because it has to do with what court is qualified to do that, and under what circumstances, how large of a court is, and so on. There's witnesses that testify and all that. Great question. And by the way, I welcome questions. Please, if you think of something that's not making sense, or you're curious about, please feel free to jump in. And then also, okay, so let's see. We talked about the other 3 death penalties: the rebellious son, rare cases of people who are killed without trial. There are some cases like that. Okay, well, think about what Pinchas did. So this here was an example of people who were like just publicly rebellious, and they were, so there's a very specific set of circumstances that are that rarely converge, that allow for that vigilante kind of reaction, and it's not generally recommended, and there's you have to really know what's right. If you and a funny point on that is, if you go to the court and you ask them, they have to tell you no, because it has to be in the moment. So yeah. So another example, and I don't remember if this exactly is brought up or not, but is the home. I think it is the home intruder, right? So
Doesn't really vigilante justice so much as it's something that wouldn't be timely.
yeah, right. It's a time sensitive issue, so it's not really vigilante justice. It's something that needs immediate attention.
Like
Yeah.
you're not gonna call a judge and say, hey, this guy's on my property, can I shoot him?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. So I have to repeat what you said because I've got the mic. That you can't. You're not going to call a judge to get a death warrant ruling, a death sentence for the home intruder. You have to deal with it right away, and because life is at stake. Okay. Good point. Um, so yeah, that's some examples we got, and then chapter 9 it talks about more discussion about burning versus strangulation, things about murderers, and people who are killed without trial.
That maybe burning is. Could you
Yeah. Okay.
process of the four deaths?
Okay. So there, it was a little difficult. The content was difficult sometimes because we're talking about exactly how these executions are carried out. And he's asking about burning. He wants some clarification, or wants me to clarify for everybody what burning is. And well, the thing is, the Sadducees had their interpretation that was very face value, and it was what you typically think of if somebody is burned at the stake. That's what, just like, I guess we just tie him to a pole, wrap him in something, and then set it all on fire. But the sages, the Pharisees were like, no, that's not what burning, the punishment of burning is. They actually look at what happened to Nadav and Avihu in the tabernacle, and they don't want to deface the human body also. So it's a little gory, but the procedure is, they take the what's the term we're talking about here, the criminal that's condemned. They put him up to his knees in manure, just to keep him immobile, and they put a scarf around his neck and hold it on both sides, cause him to choke a little bit, so he opens his mouth, and then they pour molten lead down his throat. Yeah. So it should be pretty rapid. So I'm sorry to everybody who had to hear that. But
Well, no, we're all blaming Peter.
yeah. So
In most of these cases of capital punishment,
yeah, most of these are different from what you'd expect. And also, it needs to be said, and they made a really big deal about this, that
One of the first two adopting of Sanhedrin, right? About 70 years.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's very rare that executions were carried out at all. It almost never happened, and when it did, it did not reflect well on the court, and so they would go through great efforts to try to exonerate any person who is convicted of a capital, or to acquit a person who is accused of a capital crime.
Actually, maybe I'll repeat it, but I think it's a really great point. People usually, when they struggle with relating to rabbinic decrees or rabbinic authority, they usually think the rabbis are making things more strict which is making life harder for me. But this is a great example of where the rabbis make it. They add strictures, testimony into court procedures, making it much harder to convict someone,
Mhm.
and that's an act of chesed, not of.
Yeah, right. So Yoshi is making this point that that often people think of the Torah and they think of Judaism as being very strict, very restrictive, very burdensome, very like brutal. And in the reality, in this case particularly, it's the opposite. Is that the rabbis are pouring through the scriptures, they're pulling them apart and trying to find every way possible to extend kindness, grace, mercy, and to avoid bringing about the face value harshness that you might jump to in the Torah. But yeah, the reality is they have all kinds of rules that restrict somebody from being convicted in capital cases, and so it's uncommon for that to occur.
What's the connection between molten lead and
Okay, so Stephen wanted to know what's the connection. I brought up Nadav and Avihu, and what does that have to do with molten lead? Well, the reality is that there is not the molten lead. They didn't die from molten lead, but they died in such a way that the fire entered into their nostrils and burned them from the inside, and it didn't deface the outside of their body. And so we do the best we can to kind of emulate that. Welcome.
Their
Thanks
master
for
might
that.
say, well, here it is coming from inside.
Yeah. And a really fascinating thing that came up a few times was that when it comes to the death penalty, they still brought up this question or this principle of ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, love your neighbor as yourself, still applies to somebody who's convicted in a capital case. And so they're applying that.
Does that go into where Yeshua talks about loving your enemy? Like, do you think he's like extending that thought that was already there, and just really specifying that is part of loving?
So he's asking if when Yeshua talks about loving your enemy, is he extending the concept of love your fellow as yourself, or maybe specifically in the case of the criminal who's convicted?
Yeah, kind of like along this train of thought that the rabbis are trying to extend as much grace as possible,
Oh,
even
okay.
to the criminal.
Yeah. So is Yeshua going through this process of extending the idea of loving your neighbor the way that rabbis do? And
it's more specific. Like he just kind of like, okay, this is it. Like,
yeah, I'm not sure. I think he's what he's looking at is the
redemption, maybe more.
Yeah, he's looking at the redemption. And in a way, like you feel like if somebody is on an opposing team, then then you don't have to you don't have to love them anymore. So I like in this case, you might think, naturally think that no, I don't have to extend love your neighbor as yourself to somebody who's convicted of a heinous crime. You might think, no, he's outside of the realm of that rule. And so there is a parallel then you could make with Yeshua, who also you have somebody who is your enemy. They want the worst for you. You might think, well, I guess I'm not required then to apply that category of love your neighbor as yourself to them. And yet he comes and tells you, yeah, you are. So it's a really important lesson for all of us. Good point. So okay, and then chapter 10 talks about strangulation in cases where that applies. It's really the default method. And then also rebellious judges. You've got the judge who just absolutely won't take correction or stand down in the justice system. And then chapter 11 is fascinating because it gets into all this. It's talking about the capital cases and things like that. And it asks the question, do these people who have committed such a crime have a place in the world to come? And, does their punishment make up for what they did? Does it atone for their sin and allow them into the world to come? And the answer is it depends. And in some cases it does. But it goes in the Gemara. It goes into more cases where no, these people absolutely do not have a place in the world to come. It starts to talk about categories of people that don't have a place in the world to come, like and they go back and forth a little bit, but they bring up people like the generation of the flood or the company of Korah and so on. And they kind of flesh that out. But that chapter also gets into a lot of, as the theologists would say, eschatology, end time stuff. Talks a lot about Messiah, and it's one of the most exciting and interesting passages in the entire Talmud. It's a couple of pages, and set in page 98. It gets into that, and it's a lot of fun. Okay, so I would like to get into a little bit of our of just a couple interesting things that I picked out. I'm not actually going to look at page 98, but I encourage you to do that at some point if you like, if you're interested. But I wanted to bring out a few things that seem actually really timely. Number one is 26b, and we're talking about the case of a burial on Yom Tov. Now, normally, it's considered forbidden to bury someone on Shabbat or on Yom Tov, on the first day of Yom Tov. On the second day, there's some mitigating factors, but on the first day of Yom Tov. Now, this is a problem for people who are studying the Gospels. Why? It's based on the synoptic chronology. It seems to me it's pretty unavoidable to say that Yeshua was buried on the first day of Yom Tov.
Seemingly righteous, very righteous people.
By seemingly righteous people.
According to which timeline?
According to the synoptic chronology. Yep. Because he has a Seder, Pesach Seder on the night of Pesach, because they prepared the Pesach on the previous day. That was the 14th. That night is the 15th. They're having a Seder, and he's arrested that night. After they go to the Mount of Olives, he's on trial overnight. Which, by the way, this trial is in every. It's like the Sadducees in that story. It's like they opened up every tractate Sanhedrin and everything there is to say about how to conduct a trial according to Jewish law. And they did the opposite over and over again. They did it not in the proper place, not at the proper time. It's not only it's on the Yom Tov. It's at night. It's in Caiaphas's house. There's just so many things that completely invalidate that trial. It seems that the gospel writers know that, and they're emphasizing that, but. So he's tried and he's convicted, all of that before morning, and now in the morning comes and he's killed, he's buried before the end of the day. All of that's happening on the first day of Yom Tov. So do we have any precedent for that in the Gemara? And we find actually here in an interesting discussion on this on page 26, 26b. And so what you have there is the Sefaria version. I'm looking at Art Scroll, so the translation may be a little bit different, but you can follow along. So the Gemara discusses another individual who remains eligible. The topic is this. They're talking about who qualifies as witnesses, and a wicked person is disqualified from being a witness in a court of law. Okay, so then if somebody's a flagrant, unrepentant sinner, then they're not going to be qualified to be a witness. So, and what about in this case? An individual who actually remains eligible because he's presumed to rationalize his deed. So it says, Hanu kaburae di kabur nafsha biyom tov rishon shel atzeres. So there were certain grave diggers who buried a person on the first Yom Tov of Shavuos. Mesinu Rav Papa ufaslinu leedus. So Rav Papa excommunicated them for doing this, for burying somebody on the first day of Yom Tov. He excommunicated them, and he disqualified them from giving testimony. The Aksharinu Rav Huna bereda Rav Yoshua. So Rav Huna, the son of Rav Yoshua, declared them qualified for testimony. How is this possible? Amarle Rav Papa. So Rav Papa goes to Rav Huna ben Rav Yeshua, and he says, these people are unrepentant sinners. They're evildoers. Why are you going to go and qualify them reinstate them as valid witnesses? Rav Huna, the son of Rav Yeshua, responded, Savre mitzvah ka'avde. They thought that they were doing a mitzvah. They're burying somebody. They thought they weren't acting in rebellion. They believe they're doing a mitzvah. Rav Papa asks, ka mishamasina lihu, but we went and excommunicated them, and they still continued to do this. This isn't the first time that they've done this. They're continuing to do it. I want to see what not found guilty, not guilty in 2 courts after that by secular courts. Yeah.
He is found
Oh.
not guilty in 2 courts after that.
Yeshua was like 2 Jewish courts found not guilty.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Interesting idea. All right. So, but we excommunicate them, and then they're continuing to do this. They're still going ahead and burying people on the first day of Yom Tov. How can you possibly think then that they're not in rebellion, in unrepentant sin? So Rav Huna, the son of Rav Yoshua, responded, Savre kaparaka avde lan rabbanan. So their thinking is this: by burying the dead person even on the Yom Tov is a mitzvah, and however, since we need to violate a law in order to perform this mitzvah, the rabbis, by excommunicating us, that was their way of giving us atonement for what we did, right? So since we have to do something that's technically wrong, but we have to do it, they're coming to our aid by excommunicating us. That exonerates us or brings us back up to snuff. Yeah. So okay. Okay, so that's okay. That's the gist of that one. I did this. I didn't continue on with that one, did I? That's okay. I'm gonna go on with another example in 35a. So it's sort of tangentially related. Or are you looking for?
It was at the very
Oh, I just said it wherever. It's fine. So it's sort of tangentially related because we're talking about a corpse that needs to be buried. All right. So, and you'll recognize the logic that's happening here. In the context, we're actually talking about if a person is a murderer, can they be tried and executed on Shabbat? Or is that set aside Shabbos? Is it override Shabbos or not? All right, and so here in the midst of that discussion, they bring up this very interesting discussion. So it says, Amar le Reish Lakish le Rabbi Yochanan. Reish Lakish said to Rabbi Yochanan, Utehei kuvuras meis mitzvah docha Shabbos mikal v'chomer. we can suggest that burying a dead person who died, unattended corpse. There's no one that take care of them. It's sort of you find them, just whatever. There's no one to bury them. That they should be buried on Shabbat, based on a kal v'chomer reasoning. Kal v'chomer reasoning is the reasoning that if something is true in a certain case, then if you have a case that's even stronger, then for sure it's true, right? So here's the kal v'chomer that establishes that you should be able to bury someone on Shabbos. Uma avoda shedoch Shabbos. If the avoda in the temple that overrides Shabbat, if the priests do their work in the temple, do their work that normally is forbidden on Shabbat, but they're required to do it because the priest service overrides Shabbat. If that's the case, mitzvah docha osa me ula achoso. Then the burial of an unattended corpse ought to also override Shabbos because of the superfluous and for his sister. And so I don't want to get into it too much, but the idea of why does it say sister in there? It's asking the question, why did it even need to say that? And then it's deriving from this idea of the sister, that it's like, if it's his sister, then he can't contaminate himself. But if it's a mace mitzvah, then you can be contaminated for them. It's to limit the application of that prohibition on becoming tamei. Anyway, but the idea is basically that what they're saying is, if it's permitted to bury, in general, burying an unattended corpse takes precedence over a priest's duty in the temple, and the priest's duty in the temple takes precedence over Shabbat, then burying an unattended corpse, ought to take precedence over Shabbat.
That's almost identical to an argument that
Exactly. You're catching it. All right. So that and it goes on with that a little bit more. Oh yeah. Okay. I will continue a little bit more. Kidasanya la'aviv imo la'achiv la'achoso matalmud omar. So they bring in a baraisa. Baraisa is it's like a mishnah that never got recorded. So it's an ancient stratum of Jewish law. It says that when concerning a nazir, he should not contaminate himself with impurity, with tuma, for his father, his mother, his brother, or for his sister. What does it come to teach? If someone was going to offer his Passover sacrifice, or to circumcise his son, and he finds out that someone related to him died, Yachol Yitame, he might think that he should go ahead and contaminate himself with tuma in order to bury the corpse. Amarta lo yitama. Instead, it's coming to tell you that he's not allowed to do that. Now, Yachol kishem she'eno mitame la'achoso. So you might think that, well, just like I can't contaminate myself for my sister or relative or whatever, maybe also then, kach einu mitame lemeis mitzvah. Then if I see an unattended corpse, I can't go and contaminate myself on behalf of that corpse. Talmud lomar ula achoso. And that's why we bring in the word for his sister to specify it, make it more specific. The achoso who the einu mitame, it's only his sister that you can't contaminate himself. But of all mitame lemeis mitzvah, but he can contaminate himself for an unattended corpse. All right, so now so that it goes on, and so he's proving whether it's kal v'chomer. We're going back to complete his kal v'chomer to prove the obligation to bury an unattended corpse should override the Sabbath laws. He already noted the sacrificial service is stringent relative to the Sabbath laws; it overrides them. Nevertheless, the obligation to bury an unattended corpse overrides the sacrificial service. Therefore, Shabbos, mipnei avoda, with regard to with the Sabbath, which is less stringent in that it is overridden by the sacrificial service. Enu din shetehe kavuras meitz mitzvah docha osa. Isn't that logical that the burial of an unattended corpse should override it as well? And they end up refuting it by saying, Rabbi Yochanan refutes it by saying, Amarle, he said to him, the murderer issue actually is a counterexample of that, docha es a Shabbos, because it docha es a avoda, it overrides the sacrificial services because of the verse that says, you shall take him from the very altar. The Eina docha es a Shabbos, but it doesn't override the Sabbath laws. So I'm not going to go further on with that. But what I really wanted to show you is that in that passage, what is it, Matthew 11, the grain, or maybe it's 12, in the grain fields, and he's accused of his disciples are accused of violating Shabbos. He makes this argument. It's not a similar argument. He makes this exact argument, and he's following Talmudic logic to establish that in the case where somebody is starving, that somebody who's starving over somebody, the human need for food overrides the temple service, and he brings in that proof from David going in and eating the table of showbread, eating the showbread from the Mishkan.
Pretty shocking example.
Yeah, and then and the avoda overrides Shabbos, and so therefore the human need for food overrides Shabbos. So anyway, it's just exact example of parallel logic, and you can really see how Yeshua fits into this. And he's up here. He's continuous with this kind of discussion and study.
I don't really want to make too much of a stretch, but it's maybe even possible that this was Yeshua's likely that it was Yeshua's opinion regarding the burial as well, and that like Nicodemus and that they were familiar with Yeshua's opinion on this, and so they're following his.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That same idea, right? So, right, that's exact. Great, thank you for bringing that up because I would have forgotten. So Sheldon's point was to say that okay, if we have this example of Yeshua applying this logic in terms of human need in general, and we have an example of in the Gemara people who apply that same logic to the burial of a corpse. It's possible that was how Yeshua was holding. He's in the era of the Tanaim, where hundreds of years before this discussion is taking place. It could be that that's where he was holding in terms of can someone be buried on Shabbos or on Yom Tov, and maybe it's different Shabbos and Yom Tov even. But and maybe the people who buried him were familiar with his rule on that, with Nicodemus and so on, and Joseph, and or his disciples in general, or maybe they held that same opinion.
Especially if Yeshua's opinion is about human dignity, being Dofe Shabbos.
Yeah,
so
especially
applies to someone starving. It also applies to a dead person who has to bury them.
Yeah, right. So if it has to do with human dignity, kavod brios, then and Yeshua has that's the thread that connects all those together. It also connects together the thread of the man who had to leave his or who was picking up his mat. And we have examples of human dignity overriding Shabbos in the Gemara as well, where in terms of carrying. So it's very possible that that's what's going on. I think that's a really neat idea. Okay. So let's see. One more thing I wanted to show you before we get into the official study. Let's see if I could find where I put it. Oh, it's right here. Okay. So this is a little bit changing topics slightly. We're still talking about death a little bit, but this is just so beautiful because it's another great example of how it's so obvious once you know that Yeshua is engaging in very normal Jewish discussion. One of those. So I'm bringing this in from page 90b, and so now we're in this topic of like who has a place in the world to come and all that stuff, all these kinds of topics. I'm talking about the resurrection. Okay, so the back up a little bit, get a little context, running start. Okay, so there are okay, so so what does it say? It says that the heretics approached Rabban Gamliel. Okay, what is the Hebrew word there for heretics? Saddukim, Sadducees. So Rabban Gamliel is confronted by some Sadducees, and they ask him about the resurrection of the dead. And they ask him, where is this found in the Torah? We don't believe it. It's not in the Torah. Resurrection of the dead, not a thing. So they confront Rabban Gamliel. So they says, Minayin Shekadosh Baruch Hu Michaye Mesim. Where in Scripture can it be proved that the Holy One, blessed is He, resurrects the dead? Amar lehem mina Torah, mina Neviim, mina Kesubim. He cited to them from the Torah, from the prophets, from the writings. The lo kiblu bimenu. They didn't accept any of his answers as proof. Okay, and it goes on. There's a few. There's actually several answers that come in, and but I want to give you the bottom line on this because I want to move it a little quick. He wasn't able to give them any convincing proof until they said this following verse. Asher nishba Hashem lavosechem lases lahem. It's on the land that Hashem swore to your fathers to give to them. Lahem lo nomar ela lahem. He's not saying that Hashem swore. This is Moshe talking to the later generations, saying that Hashem promised to give the land of Israel. Doesn't say to you, but to them. He swore to your forefathers to give them the land of Israel. Okay, so mikan shetchias amesim mina Torah. There we have the proof of the resurrection of the dead in the written Torah. And the others say, no, that's not how the story went. He actually told them this other proof from the Torah. You who cling to the Lord your God are all alive today. Right? So, pshita dechayim kulachem hayom. We're obviously all alive today. We were here today. Why did Moshe add the word today? Ela afilu b'yom shekol ha'olam kulam mesim. He indicates that even on the day when all the others in the world are dead, atem chayim, you who cling to the Lord are alive because God will resurrect you. Mahayom kulchem kayamin, just as you are all alive today. Le'olam haba kulchem kayamin. Then also in the world to come, you will also be alive. Okay, so that obviously is very reminiscent of a story we have in the Gospels as well, is it not? Right? The whole story of the discussion with the Tzaddukim on the topic of the resurrection of the dead. Okay, and so it's fascinating. This is it's just a normal thing. You have to be able to prove the resurrection of the dead from the Torah. And Yeshua proved his ability to do that. Okay, so all right, we're ready to move on and finish up the study. Yay! Okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit of background on where the whole topic right now. If I go back to the beginning of the sugya, sugya is like, remember the Gemara. We have a comment on there. Can you read that to me? I can't see it from here. If he didn't rise, how did?
If the dead don't rise, how how did Saul talk to the prophet
Oh,
through the mediator?
okay. All right. Now, all right. Fine. Yeah. Okay. That's it. So that's an interesting. So Saul or Samuel, or Saul asks a sorcerer to bring up, or a sorceress to bring up the soul of Samuel to talk with Samuel. Now, I think in that particular case, you would say that's not a resurrection from the dead because he's not reunited with his body. So the debate is not over whether the souls continue to live in the afterlife. It's whether they are reunited with their body and come back to life. So I'm not sure. The Sadducees might have an answer for that one, but
There's another thing that I was thinking about. It's often said that the Sadducees did not accept the prophet, period. But yet here's Gamaliel. He's showing from the prophet.
Yeah.
I think it's possible because I think we really don't have very much information about the Sadducees, that they did have the prophets. However, they did not believe that their words were for the future. Like they believed that their words were for like that.
Okay.
And so that's my metaphor. Yeah. Right, yeah.
In fairness, the Saducean don't accept the words. They only accept, at least according to this, they only accept the citations from.
Oh, in the context. So here they don't ever. They don't. He'll issue to them the quotes from the prophets, but they don't accept them.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't know. It's an interesting debate. We don't know, but there's discussion in scholarly circles about whether or not, and this is what Sheldon was asking about whether or not the Saducees accept the words of the prophets or not. Here we've got Rabban Gamaliel citing to them the prophets, and Peter points out, yeah, but they don't accept them. But then why is he even bringing it up? And it might be then that they accepted them, but only as historical, not necessarily as predictive of the future. So it's unclear, but it's an interesting thought, interesting idea.
They at least didn't have a proper understanding.
Yeah, they clearly did not have a proper understanding of the prophet. Yeah. Now, I mean, there are people. The fact that they quoted the prophets to them is not surprising because there are missionaries who try to evangelize Jews and will quote to them the New Testament.
Yeah.
And people are like, Orthodox Jews are like, I don't, like that's meaningless to me. But but it's reflexive, it's like this is the information that I'm trained on and whatever. So okay, all right. So I want to bring you to the final sugya. Sugya is basically, if you think of the Mishnah or the Gemara as sort of commentary on the Mishnah, then it'll quote a section of Mishnah and then it will break it down and explain it all. So what they're currently on at the very end is the issue of an Ira Nidachas. Now, Ira Nidachas is a city that has turned away to idolatry, and there's a commandment in the Torah that you have to take down that whole city. You have to execute the whole city. All the righteous people are spared, but their property is destroyed and everything. The city is completely annihilated, burned up. Okay, so and the reason this comes up in this context is that they're discussing the question of do the inhabitants of an Ira Nidachas have a place in the world to come, and so it's asserted that they do not. Okay, so they get into like what needs to be done with the different types of food that's in there. Does it get burned, or what counts as property, what doesn't? If you've got a tree that's still connected to the ground, is that property that gets destroyed, or is it, or if a woman's got a wig, is that property or is that her clothing? What if she's not wearing it at the moment? If she's got, it's they've got to figure it all out. Now, I don't know how often this has actually happened, and definitely not in the days of the sages. So but it's all about the love of the mitzvot, and And so what if you've got holy objects? What if you have a sacrifice that somebody designated and said, you've got to, this is holy to the Lord. Now, is it property that needs to be destroyed, or is it now so sacred that you're not allowed to destroy it? What if you got a Torah scroll? You burn the Torah scroll and you got mezuzahs on people's houses. Do you destroy all that? It seems inappropriate to do that. So we get into a story about Eliyahu Hanavi, and it gets into the building of Jericho, the rebuilding of Jericho. Oh yeah, go ahead and read that.
The prophets are still true whether or not someone accepts their words. We should speak truth.
Absolutely, yeah. The prophets are still true whether or not someone accepts their words. We should still speak truth. So it's true, So even if somebody doesn't accept the prophets, we can still cite them to them. So Rabban Gamliel did the right thing, even if they don't accept his words. So yeah, good point. Thanks, Eli. Okay, so this story is taking place in the days of Elijah and Ahab and so on. But remember, when Joshua destroyed Jericho, he said that whoever rebuilds this city will do so at the death of his children, and then Heel goes ahead and builds Jericho, and as he's building it, his children die one after the other. It's not supposed to be rebuilt. It was a city that was supposed to be destroyed and not be rebuilt. And so then we get into this whole story about Elijah and stopping up the rain, and then a situation occurred where, so to stop up the rain, there were three special keys in heaven. There's the key of rain, the key of childbirth, and the key of the resurrection of the dead. And so those are supposed to belong to heaven and be in heaven's territory all times. God gives Elijah the key of rain, right? And so he's able to stop up the rain. But then this woman needs a resurrection. Her child dies, right? And so he can't. He's got the key of rain. He doesn't have the key of resurrection. He can't give the key back, or he can't keep both keys. He's got to give the key of rain back in order to get the key of resurrection. And so they compare it to somebody who locked himself out. He's locked his keys in his car or something like that, a situation, or something similar to that. And so he's got to give up the key of rain. And so God's like, finally, they need some rain, and he brings the rain back, and then he can go and head and resurrect the dead.
Elijah's been withholding rain. It's a political move against Ahab.
Yeah,
right?
he's been withholding the rain. Yeah.
Decide, I'm going to give up my leverage on the kingdom, Ahab, raise this boy.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let the boy stay dead.
Yeah, exactly. So Elijah's is using his power over rain as like a tariff against Ahab, and then it's as leverage against him, right? And so he's got to make the tough decision: do I maintain that hold on Ahab, this wicked king, or do I resurrect this child and bring this child back from the dead? So he decides to give it up. Okay, so all right. So now we're into the final discussion. The Gemara relates an observation made by one of the Tanaim about Elijah. Darash Rabbi Yosef B'Tzipori. So Rabbi Yosef expounded in Tzipori. Tzipori is a town that was nearby Nazareth in Galilee. Abba Eliyahu. He calls him Father Elijah. That's his name. He calls him. He says kapdan. He was a kapdan. What is a kapdan? It means somebody who gets. He's like we would say today, a snowflake. Somebody who gets very easily offended and just like holds it to you and like
always defensive.
defensive. He was a kaptan. All right. He says this. This is
Elijah used them.
okay. So he says, Hava ragil lemese gabe. So Elijah used to come and visit Rabbi Yosef. Wouldn't that be amazing if you had a visit from Eliyahu to teach you Torah every so often? He would visit him every day. What?
I said that doesn't happen to everyone.
Yeah, right.
You don't see him every day.
I mean, once a week at tops. It doesn't happen.
That's why I'm like,
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's why Yoshi's late to shul. Okay. Hava Ragil Lemese Gabe. He used to visit Rabbi Yosef every day when he was engaged in Torah study. Ikase mine tlasa yome veloasa. 3 days went by after he said that. Elijah is such a snowflake. 3 days went by and Elijah didn't show up. He asa, when he finally came Amarle, Rabbi Yosef said to him, my loasamar. Why did the master not come for the last 3 days? Amarle, Kaptan Karisli. You called me a snowflake. You called me easily offended.
Proving the point.
Why should I come to you who's going to insult me like that? Amarle. Kaptan Kafidmar. You just got offended by what I just did. See, you proved my point. Okay. Okay, now V'lo yidbak biyad chamu mamin acherem. So this is quoting the verse. No, nothing in your hand should cling to your hand from the cherem, from the banned property. Kol zman shirisha'im ba'olam haron af ba'olam. As long as the wicked are in the world, Hashem is angry at the world. His anger is in the world. All right. Haron af ba'olam.
Wrath.
Right. There is wrath. Yeah. So yeah, correct. The anger is in the world. Marashaim. All right, which wicked people are we talking about that God bring God's wrath into the world? Amar Rav Yosef, ganave, thieves. Thieves. As long as there are thieves in the world, God is angry. Now this is all new. I haven't read this yet, right? We're all learning this brand new. Tanu Rabbanan, Rasha Ba'olam. So if the rabbis taught in a baraisa, and if a wicked person comes into the world, Charon Ba'olam, then divine anger comes to the world. Ne'emar bivo Rasha ba gambuz ve'im kalon cherpa. As it is stated, there's a proof text on this claim. With the coming of a wicked person comes derision too, and with shamefulness comes disgrace. Rasha avad min olam. If a wicked person disappears, is lost from the world, when he dies, tova la'olam. Then good things come into the world. Nemar uva avod risha imrina. As it is stated, when the wicked perish, there is joy. When the wicked perish, there's joy. Tzadik niftar min olam. If the righteous, when a righteous person departs from the world, ra'a va'olam. This is harmful to the world. Harm comes into the world. Shneimar tzadik avad ve'ein ish sam alev. As it is said, a righteous man is perished, and no man takes it to heart. Ve'anshei chesed esafim be'ein mevin. And the men of kindness are gathered in without anyone understanding. That is because of the evil that the righteous man is taken. Tzaddik ba'al olam, when a righteous person comes to the world, tova ba'al olam, then good comes into the world, or good fortune, goodness comes into the world. Ne'emar ze yinachmenu mima'asenu mi'itzbon yadenu. As it is stated, they called his name Noah, quoting from Genesis. This one will bring us relief from our work and from the toil of our hands. Adran Olach, Kol Yisrael. Hadran Allah, Kol Yisrael Yesh Lehem Chelek. Okay, so we're gonna say the whole thing, right? Hadran Allah. Salika la Masechet Sanhedrin. Sanhedrin is concluded. That was beautiful and very timely. Okay, then we have a couple of prayers here to say, and statements to say here. I will read it in English and then in Hebrew 3 times, or Aramaic 3 times, as the case is here. We will return to you, O tractate Sanhedrin, and return. You shall return to us. Our thoughts are on you, tractate Sanhedrin. Your thoughts are on us. You will not forget us, tractate Sanhedrin, and we will not forget you, neither in this world nor in the world to come. Hadron Allah, Masechet Sanhedrin, v'hadrakalan. Datan Allah, Masechet Sanhedrin, v'datakalan. La nishnei mina, or nis. Nis Neshe Minach Masechet Sanhedrin velo Sis Neshe Minan La Ba'alamad Hadain Vela Ba'alma Da'ase Hadran Alach Masechet Sanhedrin v'Hadrakalan Datan Alach Masechet Sanhedrin v'Datakalan La Nis Neshe Minach Masechet Sanhedrin vela Sis Neshe Minan La Ba'alma Hadain Vela Ba'alma Da'ase Hadran Alach Masechet Sanhedrin v'Hadrakalan Datan Alach Masechet Sanhedrin v'Datakalan La nisnashe minach Masechet Sanhedrin v'la sisnashe minan la almad adain v'la alma ase. May it be your will, Hashem, or God of our fathers, that your Torah be our preoccupation in this world, and may it remain with us in the world to come. Chanina bar Papa, Rami bar Papa, Nachman bar Papa, Achad bar Papa, Mari bar Papa, Rafram bar Papa, Rachish bar Papa, Surchav bar Papa, Ada bar Papa, Daru bar Papa. Here at Somna Funach Adonai Leinu Wasenu, Shetehei Surazaka Umanu Seinu Ba'olam Hazeh. Usehei Imanu La'olam Ba, Hanina bar Papa, Rami bar Papa, Nachman bar Papa, Achai bar Papa, Abamari bar Papa, Rafram bar Papa, Rachish bar Papa, Surchav bar Papa, Ada bar Papa, Daru bar Papa. Please, Hashem, our God, sweeten the words of your Torah in our mouth and the mouths of your people, the house of Israel. May we are offspring, the offspring of our offspring, and the offspring of your people. House of Israel, all of us know your name and study your Torah. Your commandment makes me wiser than my enemies, for it is forever with me. May my heart be perfect in your statutes, that I not be ashamed. I will never forget your precepts, for through them you have preserved me. Blessed are you, Hashem. Teach me your statutes. Amen, amen, amen. Selah forever. Harevna Adonai Eloheinu es divrei sorachem befinu fifios Amach Beis Israel v'niyeh kulanu nachnu v'tzetzeinu v'tzetzei Amach Beis Israel kulanu yodei shmecha v'lomdei sorsecha lishmah me'oivai techakmeni mitzvosecha ki leolam hu hi li bisa mim v'chukecha v'leman lo ebosh leolam lo eshkach b'kudecha ki va hi yisani baruch atah Adonai lamadeni chukecha amen amen amen. We express gratitude before you, Hashem, and God of our fathers, that you have established our portion with those who dwell in the study hall, and have not established our portion with the idlers. For we arise early, they arise early. We arise early for words of Torah. They arise early for idle words. We toil, they toil. We toil and receive reward, while they toil and do not receive reward. We run, they run. We run to the life of the come, while they run to the well of destruction, as it is said. But you, O God, will lower them into the well of destruction, and of bloodshed and deceit shall not live out half their days. I will trust in you. לפניך אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהינו ששמת חלקנו מיושבי בית המדרש ולא שמת חלקנו מיושבי קוראנוס שאנו משכימים והם משכימים אנו משכימים לדברי תורה והם משכימים לדברים בטלים אנו עמלים והם עמלים אנו עמלים ומקבלים שכר והם עמלים ואינם מקבלים שכר אנו רצים והם רצים אנו רצים לחיי עולם הבא והם רצים לבאר שחס, שנאמר, ואתה אלוהים תורידם לבאר שחס, אנשי דמים ומרמה, לא יחצו ימיהם, ואני אבטח בך. May it be your will, Hashem, God, my God, and just as you help me complete tractates and Sanhedrin, so may you help me begin other tractates and books, and complete them, and to learn and to teach, to safeguard, to perform, fulfill all the words of your Torah's teachings with love. May the merit of all the Tanaim, Amoraim, and Torah scholars stand by me and my children, and that the Torah shall not depart from my mouth and the mouth of my children and my children's children forever. May there be fulfilled for me the verse, when you walk, the Torah will guide you, when you lie down, it will watch over you, and when you wake up, it will converse with you. For because of me, the Torah, your days will increase, and your years of life will be added to you. Long days are in its right hand, and its left are wealth and health, hand are wealth and honor. Hashem will give might to his people. Hashem will bless his people with peace. Here it's on the Fanecha Adonai Elohai Keshem she'azartani l'sayem Masechet Sanhedrin ken ta'azreni lehashil masechtos u'sefarim אחרים ולסיימם, ללמוד וללמד, לשמור ולעשות ולקיים את כל דברי תורתך באהבה. וזכות כל התנאים והאמוראים ותלמידי חכמים יעמוד לי ולזרי שלא סמוש התורה מפי ומפי זרי וזרע זרי עד עולם, ותתקיים בי והיסהלכך תנחי עוסק ושוכבך תשמור עליך, והקיצוצה היא שישיך, כי בי ירבו ימיך ויוסיפו לך שנות חיים, אורך ימים בימינה ובשמאלה, עושר וכבוד. אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את שמו בשלום. All right. You did it. You came here. We finished. We don't have a minion here today. God willing, maybe in the next one we'll have a minion. We can say this beautiful cottage.
Either on or the day after.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You should double check the dates.
It's close. Yeah. It's like, yeah. So, yeah. Well, I was thinking, I think it ends on a Shabbos. So it's like,
maybe.
So we Motzei Shabbos maybe or something like that. Yeah, it's just a couple of days after Dag BaOmer. So okay, so anyway, we're gonna close off the stream, and so I want to thank everybody who joined us today on the stream and we watch this afterward. We're gonna enjoy some fresh bagels. You guys can definitely enjoy the virtual bagel that you'll find a link to in the description. Tell me how it goes. And I just wish you all a Chag Kasher v'Sameach, and it's beautiful to learn with you all. All right, thank you. Ahavti sorasecha kol hayom isichasi. Ahavti sorasecha kol hayom isichasi. Ay ay ay. Ahavti sorasecha kol hayom isichasi. Ay ay ay. Ahavti sorasecha kol hayom isichasi. Da 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 Figure out how to turn this thing off. What does that say?
Screen.
No, that's not what I want.
You don't have access to this feature.
Okay,
You have to get out of this keyway.
I guess.
Yeah.
I have to maybe zoom out.
Are you zoomed in?
I'm zoomed way in so I can see everything. So back it up a little bit. There we go.
You want the keyboard shortcut.